Good evening. This is the Plymouth Charter Commission meeting in the Great Hall in Plymouth. This meeting is hybrid. It's in person as well as via a Zoom webinar and can be viewed live on the local government cable channel 15 Comcast and channel 47 Verizon. This meeting is being recorded this September 19th, 2022. Zoom attendees must register using the Zoom webinar link on the Charter Commission page of the town website. Zoom attendees for public comment, please use the raise hand icon on the lower portion of the screen. An in-person audience for public comment, please use the podium and place your name on the sign-in sheet. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, I know David Malaguti won't be here. I don't think Bill Cohan will be back in town. I'm not sure about Scott, but we have 6, so we're able to proceed. Looking at our timeline, tonight, the 19th, 2 weeks from tonight is the public hearing, which is October 3rd in this room. And that will be it's an advertised hearing. I believe that it'll be in the newspaper this week. And that will be for the public to comment. We hope they come and they do comment for us to listen. And then we will meet after the public hearing and decide what additional edits or actions this commission will take. So I thought tonight it would just be good to get an idea of edits from a number of people, since we've already received them. Many of them are constructive. The first one I'd like to turn to is our council, Anderson and Krieger. They weighed in with a full opinion. I won't read it. You should read it. They found nothing in the charter that they felt was inconsistent with state law. It's a well-written, I think, well-written memorandum. They analyzed a few of the things that we asked them to look at. They had previously given us a memo on 2 items, and this was an opinion on the entire charter. They reviewed it from front to back and decided that we kept a good separation between the legislative and the executive branches. That's one thing they look at. And they didn't see any issues. We have sent it to Boston to the municipal government unit of the Attorney General's office. They have 4 weeks to review it. And they emailed me on Friday and said they view their deadline as October 13th to get their comments back to Plymouth, if they have some. We also sent it to the Department of Housing and Community Development, which is required by the statute. So looking at the substantive edits, the Anderson-Cregan had a 2-part package. It had an opinion, and then it had about 15 pages from the charter in which they had marginal comments. So let's just, if you would turn to the marginal comments. And tonight everybody has a clean copy of the entire charter in the form it went to Boston, not redlined. And there's also a copy of the last red line that we had before we moved to the clean copy. So you've got basically a clean copy and then the red line that was just prior to it. And then you have copies of all of the edits, of which there aren't that many, but we're going to be talking about tonight. So on the Anderson-Krieger package, which is it's attached to their opinion, when Michelle made it ready for us. It's got pink and it has blue. And we should just look at the blue comments, because the blue comments are the comments of our attorney, George Hall. He was commenting on a pink version of the very recent draft, so this pink is still on on the draft here, but don't look at the pink. Many of those edits are already made, actually. Just look at the blue. So I think the first page that has a comment is page 6. Right. And his first comment was that first item in the definitions. Remember, we were deciding whether or not we were going to define annual town meeting. He actually sort of reiterates the history of that going back and forth. And the final, and actually that's Michelle's note there that says the Charter Commission will not add any definition of annual town meeting. We would be relying on the statute. His second comment on page 6, and his comments, by the way, are indicated by GH for George Hall, and they're numbered basically consecutively. His second comment was on joint meetings. Sorry about that. On joint meetings, we specify joint meetings, for example, between the precinct chairs and the select board. And he raised the concern that if there were a vote taken, a motion were made during a joint meeting, how would you count those votes? Because the committee of precinct chairs would outnumber the select board by a significant number. So he's suggesting a clarification here, his blue edit, which would say that any reference to a joint meeting of two multiple member bodies shall be deemed to create a single body for the purpose of voting on any matter assigned to the joint body. Any motion may be adopted by a majority of those present and voting for a supermajority if required by this charter, without regard to whether the motion received a majority vote by both constituent boards. So that's a clarification. Larry?
Has there been meetings of joint, I mean, the planning board and the select board and the school committee and the select board have met? I don't know that they've ever voted.
Ever taken a vote?
And I'm concerned. I don't know that we want to give power to this joint meeting. I perceived it as a discussion rather than
Right.
a vote.
So I agree. I never recall a motion having been voted in a joint meeting. It's more just get together and talk about issues, but not take a vote. Should we just, any desire to keep this change, or should we just not accept it?
I agree with Larry,
Pardon me?
I agree with Larry on this, it's just.
Okay. Unless there's anyone who wants to discuss why we should keep it, we will not take this, we will not make this edit. See, let's see, the next one is on the next page. I've looked at these before tonight. He's referring to the word precinct, which is one of the defined terms, and wondering whether we should have a cross-reference to 2-1-1, which is the provision in the charter that talks about precincts. I personally don't think we need it, but does anybody disagree? His second change is on the word quorum. Again, I looked at his change. The word quorum shall mean a majority of the members of a multi-member body, notwithstanding any vacancies which might then exist. He was concerned with the word notwithstanding as creating some ambiguity there. I played it back and forth several times. I think it's pretty clear. I think the word notwithstanding helps. Basically, it's saying that it's a majority of the members of a body, notwithstanding any vacancies. I think that's clear. Any wordsmiths? Betsy?
I'm sorry, I want to go back to precinct when we get done this
Pardon
discussion. I would like to go back to precincts when we get back, done with this discussion. I'd like to go back to the word precinct.
Precinct, go ahead.
We have two divisions now with this charter. We have the division into 18 precincts, but we also have districts, where there are 3 districts. Where is that defined? In other words, precinct means the 18 areas into which the town is divided, but then there are 3 districts, right? Didn't we say we were going to have selectmen elected from 3 different districts?
But the districts are made up of precincts, and it's kind of like, we get
Right, but do we
smaller
need-
units make up bigger units.
Do we need to define that or not? Because
I don't know.
precinct shall mean the areas in which the town is divided, but actually the town is going to be divided into 2 different areas. One is precinct and one
3
is
different
districts.
areas. It's going to be three districts.
Right, so
But
we
the
don't
precincts
have the
make up
word,
districts, the districts are going to make up the town.
but we don't have the word district in the definitions. Do we need it in the definitions? That's my question.
Larry?
I think we've declarified the word precinct. The areas into which the town is divided, I think Betsy makes a good point. There are multiple areas. We would have to say polling areas, legally, I'm not even sure how we would
Well,
define
the
precinct.
ambiguity that must have existed before we created districts.
Well, precincts are defined in state law.
Right.
So if we, I think that we're making it less clear by including this,
Including what?
the definition of precinct.
So you would eliminate the
E-
word precinct?
Either that or we have to go into,
Michelle wants
Research
to say
mode.
something.
Michelle is.
Yes.
I don't have all of the past memos with me, but precinct was removed from Collins. It's not one of, as you know, as you can see by the Anderson-Krieger comments, they're looking at an August 8th issue of the charter. We have updated it. Collins took out, about a month ago, when one of their memos took out the word precinct, and it's spelled out in the chapter where the precincts are defined.
You're
So
right.
it's not a definition any longer.
You're right, you're right. I'm looking, I'm looking, thank you, Michelle. I'm looking at the updated charter, and you're right, it's not there anymore. So when we look at the Hall memorandum, we then need to go over to the final draft to see if what we're looking at in the Hall side is still in the new draft. Okay, thank you,
Okay, so-
Michelle.
So Betsy, Michelle makes a good point. The word precinct no longer is a defined term.
Right, yes.
Okay, that's good, easy. Okay, next one.
Before,
I mean, this is the fact that our charter was a document that was in progress. You send it to them, and then, of course, it continues to evolve and finalize. So there's going to be some of these little issues like that particular word precinct.
Bill,
Yes, Larry.
on quorum,
Yes.
I bring up the sainted name of Florence C. Wilder, my English teacher from high school. I think we're looking for, after the word vacancies, a dependent clause. It doesn't make much sense if the comma which, it should be no comma and that.
Where is
We're defining vacancies.
Where are you?
Notwithstanding any vacancies that may exist?
Yeah.
Which number are you on?
J,
Wait,
quorum.
Betsy, I can't hear.
Oh, back to
Larry's got
quorum.
the
I didn't
floor.
realize you had gone back to quorum. I'm sorry. Okay, now I'm looking at it.
Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, J, the quorum.
So Larry's comment on quorum is to change the word which to that? Is that the only
And,
change?
and eliminate the comma after
Okay.
vacancies.
So notwithstanding any vacancies that may then exist.
Yes.
That sounds like an English teacher's change.
Well, it actually has meaning.
Any issues with that one? It's an easy one?
No,
Betsy?
that's fine, yeah.
Okay. Eliminate the comma after vacancies and change which to that. Okay, the next one. He found select board member awkward as compared to, select person awkward. He thought select board member would be better.
Didn't the charter review make that determination? Didn't the charter review make that determination that it had to be select person instead of select man? Wasn't that the big thing in the last charter review?
Well, I think the question is, they were eliminating the gender definition.
Yeah, but I thought that they specified
Select person?
select person. That's what I thought was the big, huge
They
deal.
probably did, that was the last charter review committee.
Mr.
I don't
Chairman,
know, I think,
Mr. Chairman. Bill Cohen. Bill Cohen's got his hand up. He's gonna start.
Bill Cohen, welcome.
hi, no, wrestling is correct, but now we're a new charter, we could theoretically,
Bill, can you turn up your volume? I didn't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yes?
Wrestling is right, you're right, there was this change that was accommodated in the last charter committee, but we know what the spirit of why they were changing it, and I think that this makes it easier to say and sticks with the spirit of why we changed it in the first place.
So where are you on the question?
I'd like to I like that language that's been recommended, it sounds a little less awkward. Instead of select,
Select board members,
rather than say board of elect.
Throughout the whole charter.
so the change would be select board member instead of select person?
No, I don't think we went with, I think the last charter committee came up with a select, I think they had come up with a language that eliminated the gender. And I think what they're suggesting stays in the spirit of that gender concern that they had at the time, but it sounds easier to say. I'm just curious what the other board members think.
Bill, I don't see gender is involved one way or the other, right? Select board
Well,
member,
no, it's gender in the sense that we were, instead of saying select man,
right?
we turned it to select person.
So the question
That
is,
select
should
board
it
member
be,
would be the same thing, right? There's no
Yes,
gender.
thinking select board member would sound better, I thought.
Okay,
I agree, I think we agree with George.
good, got it. Any disagreement?
I'm fine with it.
So we're with select board member,
Sounds good.
okay?
So are we crossing out select person from the latest draft and writing in select board member? Is that what we're doing?
Is that
Just
through the entire
double-checking.
charter, Mr.
That's,
Chairman?
Betsy, it's the definition of select board in select person, which is the next one.
So we're going to
Instead of
change
select person, it would be select board
select board
member.
member.
So,
And
Mr. Chairman, that would be through the entire charter then, correct?
Yeah. Every place we've used it.
I'm not sure it's worth it.
Another comment, same page, which is number 7. on-
May I make one more comment on that, please, Bill? I'm sorry. On L, take out the word "the words." Select board member shall mean. You see how they repeat the select, can we do that? Can we just write, oh no, I guess we can't because we've got that little hyphen in there. So we've got to, okay, sorry, wrong. So select board member shall mean, I don't think we need the words. The
What
two
word?
words, the words. You see after the little hyphen says the words.
One that says the word.
Oh, I guess they all say that. Why do they say that? Why is the words in there for all of these?
Definitions.
Why can't we just say majority vote, multiple body members shall mean?
Okay, Larry, what is
Is
the
it
change?
legalese?
which
Okay.
is-
Okay,
Well, Betsy's question is whether we want to have each of the sections begin with the words. Those two words.
You have to have that?
Betsy, you don't like to have the word and then define the word?
if you look at all of our
Betsy,
many
when
of
you
the
look the other
definitions,
way, I
it
never
says
hear what you
the
say.
word.
They all start with the word.
No, not all of them. Some of them do and some of them don't. So that's curious. But anyway, I just don't know why we did that.
Is that legalese, Mr. Lilware?
What, Leslie?
Well, let's leave it because it's not hurting anything.
We're good. Moving on.
It's just,
Let's go on.
it's
Okay.
just more words, more words.
Talk about another comma.
Can we take
Okay.
on the next one, which is a member, is what is a town officer? This is comment number 7. It says right now that a person may be a town officer whether or not the town compensates that person. The comment was that a member of the planning board, for example, is also an officer. Is that true? Yes, it is. I think that definition certainly includes that. I don't see any necessary for change there.
No.
The comment was on the website, the word website, it's comment number 8. The definition, the word website shall mean the electronic site officially owned and maintained by the town of Plymouth. Just be sure that hasn't changed. Right, and containing information concerning town business, and the comment was, they thought the definition was circular, electronic site accessible to the general public through the internet for World Wide Web. Do we want to make any change in our definition of website?
No.
Okay, happy, good, thank you. Onward, this is next page 8. There's one comment on page 8, which is number 9. And this has to do with the paragraph, he actually, all of that blue is his rewriting of that paragraph regarding committee of precinct chairs. He says he added it to introduce an acronym, which should be COPC. I've read what he wrote several times. I didn't really see much improvement. Let's see, this is number 2-2-1A. 2-1-1A. It says that every year ending, let's see. Yeah, the first item is the Precinct Advisory Committee, 2-1-1A. And I guess this is the first place we talk about the Committee of Precinct Chairs. And his comment was when we first time we say Committee of Precinct Chairs, whether we want to put in an acronym COPC there. So that's from then on, we can just refer to it as COPC.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I think that's wise.
Good idea.
Michelle, did you catch that? So this is the first time we mentioned Committee of Precinct Chairs, and then we put in parentheses, let's add COPC. And then from then on, it's COPC. Right. Let's see, in sub C of 2-1-1C, see if we made that change. I don't know, I think our wording in C reads well now, Precinct Advisory Committee. I think I'm happy with it. Okay, let's go on to the next page, which is the hall number 8. Remember, we spent a lot of time on how we were going to communicate with town meeting members. And this is 2-2-3.
Bill, I have no objection to Mr. Hall's comment, but at the last Charter Review Committee,
Right.
there was extended discussion of whether or not there should mandate electronic.
Yes.
And there was a pretty strong negative response. I wasn't part of the negative response, but I don't know that there's been a change since then.
David?
No. Communication. I mean, the question originally was, can we allow, can we send out only by email? And the answer turned out to be no, but by vote.
I think it depends on what we're talking about. For example, sending out the book of recommendations, a lot of people said they want that, a hard copy in the mail. But all of those emails we got from Steve Trifletti, I didn't see anybody asking for a hard copy. you remember? We had a lot of emails from Steve, so,
So, Mr. Pizer, what do you suggest there?
Well,
This is
you know,
your-
the one thing that's required is that the clerk send out a mailed copy. That's what this is referring to,
Oh,
saying
okay.
town meeting will be held on a specific day, place, and time. And it's annoying, but it's probably a good idea. You know, the things that are mailed, you can trust in. Things that are emailed probably get there. So this one particular place, I would just leave it alone.
Okay,
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree.
we're together on that. Thank you. Next one is on page... I'm not sure where the one came from, but well, the one is not,
They're all
it's obviously
page
misread, all ones. Okay, so it's comment number 11. He's making a suggestion to make the exception, relocating the exception and rewriting it to make it the intent clearer. Okay, so let's read it. This has to do with town meeting members receiving printed copies of the Finance Committee report. And says during his or her term of office, unless the member indicates otherwise. Now, what about that change he wants to strike? Comment?
I don't see a problem with what we have.
Anybody see a problem? Let's keep what we have. Thank you.
Why don't we have a member in 229 on the second town meeting member?
Okay, so next comment is number 12.
That 229,
Betsy, I can't, are you talking?
shouldn't it say members?
Your mic's
Oh, sorry. Shouldn't it say members? So it says town meeting members shall publish the contact information. And then it says 229 on page 9. It says, and I thought that's where we were, and the town meeting members shall receive, rather than member. I don't know, it seems to make more sense to put members, but.
Betsy, I think in this particular, in this,
I
yeah,
have it right in front of me. It doesn't say members in mine.
the second line of that page, it says
Right.
member, because it's referring to each person's individual decision, and it goes on to say his or her, so that would,
It says members first.
right.
In the first line.
Okay,
The town clerk shall publish the contact
Okay.
information provided by all town meeting members,
okay.
Right.
including address, blah, blah,
I think
blah.
it's
The town meeting
right.
member himself or herself
Okay.
shall, blah, blah.
I think it's okay.
Yep.
Then the next one is number 12. Again, this is more of a sort of a subjective comment. It says, would the town meeting consider and act on all articles in the warrant? Does this need to be said?
Yes.
Right. I think the language in the charter is okay. And I don't think we need to, sometimes it's good to say something, even if it's even perhaps a little bit wordier. Anybody have any?
Well, I mean, what if we have a 23 article warrant, and after Article 4, someone stands up and says, I move to dissolve town meeting. And is town meeting prevented somehow from acting on that?
Why would-
I don't see where you're leaping from
I'd like it to,
saying that they act on all
Larry, I would like there to be a presumption that that can't happen.
the, I just don't see where you're going.
Yeah, it
Well, yeah. I mean, what if town meeting chooses not to?
And it's town meeting purpose.
But, so,
What's wrong with this clause suggests that all articles have to be acted upon?
All articles that are brought before the
Right.
committee. If town meeting is dissolved, they're not brought before the committee.
I mean, I think to have a situation where the town meeting all of a sudden gets dissolved and there's 10 articles left, that'd be a travesty.
I would, it has,
That would introduce a new defect into town meeting.
right, I don't know that it's ever happened, but I'm not, I'm wondering, isn't it obvious?
Yes. I think his comment is out of line.
Okay.
I mean, don't you think that the language basically says they have to be acted upon, except as otherwise provided by general law? Betsy?
I'm not saying that it says that all articles need to be voted on, just all bylaws. Is that different? Is a bylaw different from an
It says
article?
any matters that appear on the town warrants, that would be all articles.
I'm looking at 232.
Yeah, it does say bylaws.
Yeah, why is it bylaws? It says it twice. And then big copy.
Well, then in 233, it also has the word all.
Please make sure your microphone is turned off.
Thank you. In 233, it also says, town meeting shall act on all proposed operating and capital improvement budgets, bond issues, and financial proposals.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, these
So
two
first-
sections work together, David, right?
Yeah, right.
Right,
So I'm just,
3.2 is bylaws and 3.3 is everything else.
yeah,
Right.
we could make them capital ALL rather than
We tried to cover
lowercase.
all the different things that town meeting
but
does
I
here
think
in
it's
2
covered.
sections.
I
Are we
I
okay
don't
with
think,
the-
Yeah,
don't
I
think we
think-
need,
I think you're right, David.
I think we're okay.
Yeah,
I think we're okay
I
with
think
it.
we're, I think-
Onward.
We got it.
yeah, I think we're all right.
Okay,
I have to put both together.
now we're to number 13, which is, let's see, this is regarding the 27 special, this is calling a special town meeting. Select Board made any time 14 days after, with prior notice, call a special town meeting. It can do it itself, it must do it if there's 200 registered voters asking for it. And the comment was, upon a request supported by a 2/3 vote of the COPC,
You turned off.
27-4.
Your mic went
You
off.
turned off.
Wasn't 274 was sort of permissive?
Right, exactly. We said may for,
Right, may was a very considered
right,
word.
so,
I think we're okay.
Yep.
We don't, it's not a mandatory thing when 2/3 ask.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Right. And that was, we had a lot of discussion on that. The next section head just says caucuses. I think his comment is whether we want to say precinct caucuses.
I think that's a good idea.
that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable suggestion.
Yes? So add the word precinct to the heading in section 6, which just says caucuses. So it'll be precinct caucuses. All right. All right, then the next change was number 15. And this is the comment we just discussed. This has to do with committee precinct chairs, the 2/3 vote can request that the select board call a special town meeting, but it's not
Right.
mandatory, so we're all set there. No change. The next one was number 16.
Bill, could I go back to that one we just talked about, please? Each precinct chairperson shall arrange for the posting of notices of caucus meetings in town hall according to the open meeting law. A question came up recently about the COPC meetings. Did they have to be posted? So we might want to add something in here that says that, because that was a question that came up last year as well. Did COPC, were we required to do that? I think we should. I mean, I think CLPC meetings should be posted
Well,
as required by the open
Go
meeting
ahead.
law.
Given, the town clerk told me today that the Attorney General has an opinion that the COPC must post its meetings. Under those circumstances, I don't think we need to repeat
all right, okay.
state law.
It defers to the
Okay.
state statute.
So the
All right.
COPC is subject to the open meeting law.
Yeah.
Therefore, it has
So
to
that's
be
been
posted.
that's been settled. Okay, I didn't hear that it had been settled. Thank you.
All right, the 2-7-6 says the committee shall from time to time appoint subcommittees of itself or committees of town meeting members to fulfill its duties under this section, and he was wondering whether the word should be may, not shall.
I would agree with him on this one.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
We have
Yeah,
a number
yeah.
of folks that think we should have the word may instead of shall, yes?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Next was his comment 17. It's the word, let's see, it says preside over the election of the moderator, of the town moderator.
That sounds better.
I agree with Frank.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I like that change. Yeah, instead of shall preside over the town meeting voting procedure, right?
Oh, instead of presiding over the town moderator voting procedure?
Yeah, I think that's
Just
what they're
changing the order of the
referring to.
wording?
I support his comment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do
I'm
too.
okay with that.
You
Yeah.
like the change?
Yep.
So we'll adopt number 17.
And 18 follows.
Same comment, 18.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So Michelle, those are both yes edits to be made. The next one was number 19, 2-11-3. It says, this is in our conflict of interest section. Currently reads, for the purpose of section 11 of chapter 2, the financial interest of town meeting members determined pursuant to the interpretation of the term financial interest by the State Ethics Committee, and so forth. And his comment was, I have some concern about whether this gives rise to an argument that a particular action of town meeting is voidable due to a violation of the section that is not disclosed or discovered until after the meeting is dissolved. He wants a sentence put in that suggests that, it says that no action at town meeting that's been deemed final shall be deemed invalid as a result of a violation of the conflict of interest. What do
I'm
you think of
looking
that
at the new one, and 211.3 isn't there on page 16 of our,
211-3.
11.2 now, Betsy. It's on the new charter, something was taken out, so it's 211.1, 211.2, same words.
oh,
But it's
same-
been
oh,
cha-
now-
but it's been
now
changed.
211.2, okay, so 211.3 is gone.
I think.
But it's been changed.
Larry Pizer.
Yeah, not to take over your lawyership, but I think that that's a wise
You gotta look-
provision.
You got to look at the new one. Look at the new charter.
Yes, but there is no 211-3 now.
211, page 16.
Right, okay.
17
But it applies to
17,
both, I
don't have
believe.
that on
on this,
Oh, okay.
on the one with the red, sorry.
I'm
Right,
looking
no,
at, that's 19 in
I
mine.
think it applies, we refashioned this to combine three
Right.
sections into
Yeah.
two. But his comment, you know, I mean, we have to understand that town meeting makes huge decisions that allocate millions and millions of, tens of millions of dollars. And his comment that we don't want there to be the potential holding up of a decision of town meeting, I don't think we had any intention that if a person did what someone says he shouldn't have done, that voids voids the decision of town meeting.
Wait, what
That
is-
was not
I
our
agree,
intention.
Larry.
Larry, what do you mean?
I
There is a
agree.
question or there isn't a question?
From our discussions,
Yeah.
we said, okay, this is what this board, this commission thinks the conflict of interest entails. And it entails a person who, under certain circumstances, shouldn't vote.
Right.
But I don't think we took another step and say,
No, that-
if that person does vote when we think that person shouldn't vote, that voids.
It's been a major question, whenever the conflict of interest thing comes up. We've always wondered what would happen if we went to court after town meeting has adjourned and challenged the vote, right?
So
Been a
I
question.
agree.
Towards the
It's not a
part and the
trivial,
moderator part, once the vote's the vote, town meeting ended, that's it.
Well, what I'm saying, I agree with this lawyer's recommendation.
I do too. I agree with George.
to
so
Paul.
add this-
we're going to
this
nail it
phrase.
down here.
Yes,
I-
I agree.
Mr. Chairman, I don't agree. I think that this is a case in all circumstances. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so you can correct me, but if there was a violation that potentially jeopardized the vote, that this would be something that could be taken to court
Right.
and could be overturned by the courts. And I think that would be the proper way, rather than on either side saying, in all cases it's voided or in all cases it's not. I think in all cases it's going to go to a higher court, a higher determination, in which case I don't think we should mess with it. If
It's
someone
always
wants
been a
to,
question, Frank.
if someone wants to take it to that level, then it's up to them to take it to that level. If we decide one way or the other, I think we're probably creating more problems than we're solving, in my opinion.
Rich?
Rich Cirque, Precinct 2. My assumption all along has been that if A makes a complaint about B and B furnishes a reply, that will not affect the vote in question. It will just record the fact that there's an allegation of a
Right.
conflict of interest, and there's a denial of a conflict of interest, and that should get posted on the town's website. But I don't believe it has anything to do with whether the action of the town meeting is effectual or not. I think it would create havoc if it affected the legitimacy of what was voted.
I agree, absolutely.
We've always, every time this, and it has come up more than once, that a vote was taken and there was an improper vote, somebody violated the charter, and there was always the question of, that if we went to court, what would it do to that vote? It has not been answered. I remember asking lawyers at the time. We didn't get a clear decision. It's more like what Frank is suggesting. It's going to get decided at some point, at some time by some court. But it has never, but I don't think it's something you can put in the charter.
I think there's a real need for finality.
Pardon me?
There's a need for finality that, in spite of the allegations, I think the need for finality should control here. And even in spite of the allegation, we don't know whether the allegation has merit, we don't know whether denial has merit, but it shouldn't affect the binding nature of the vote.
There is a recourse to, if someone believed this was a terrible, terrible miscarriage of justice, elsewhere in the charter, it says that people could go out and gather signatures and bring the matter before the town. And one of the reasons could be, if I wouldn't, but if some other people would, it could be that there was a gross conflict of interest and broke the charter. But as former clerk, thank goodness, the issue of finality is an important one. When town meeting dissolves, we have this 10-day period, which is long compared with other towns, because there is the opportunity to bring signatures before the town clerk and bring laws. But in order for the town to prosper, in order for the town to function, there has to be an assumption that a vote taken is effective.
I agree.
So, do we want to pin it down in the charter with the suggested language? Larry says yes. Any other opinions?
I just want to say that let's suppose we had a vote of 120 to 40, that something passed. And one of those people who voted yes, somebody else thinks is in conflict of interest. That one vote wouldn't have made any difference whether it passed or not. So we certainly wouldn't want to hold up money going to the police or fire or schools because somebody said some person, because it would never have, even if they had abstained, it wouldn't have affected it. So I think that wreaking havoc is not exaggerated. I think we want, when town meeting is done with town meeting, unless they use the exception that Larry talks about, that it should be final. And I think it's a good idea. I think that George Hall's comment that we want a statement in there that says this is not meant to interfere with the business of town meeting and the final vote. I think some sentence like that is helpful.
Okay. Is there anybody of the opinion that we should not put a sentence in here saying the vote is final? Frank, was that?
Yes, I don't think we should. I think the assumption is that the vote is final and that it would be adjudicated in a different fashion if someone wanted to do that. And that adding the language I think, would tend to make more problems than less.
So you're against adding this sentence?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just have a quick show of hands on this one.
Wrestling wants to make a comment.
Wrestling?
And I think, I see where we're looking at this, and I think that where Frank is looking at this, I think personally, I think that our conflict of interest doesn't really do anything. It just says, somebody can accuse somebody else, and we're all going to take notes on it, and it's going to be put in some archive somewhere. I think there could be an opportunity where a vote taken, someone could say, oh, gee, it seemed like a bunch of people had a conflict or a financial interest in this, and they voted for it, and there was probably, 20 people who did that, where it could, I would like to, I think the statement's okay. I'm going to vote in favor of it, but I think that Frank's point needs to be made that I think we should leave something in there to say, if it's a grievous, that there's a lot of people that we feel that there has to be some recourse, like, the town, getting the votes together and saying, we really felt like this was, really one side and there was a huge charter violation. I don't think this precludes that, but I think Frank's point is well taken, that, there should be some recourse for the town to say, we don't think that was really a good vote. That's my only comment.
No, Larry, one of the problems with the recourse that you suggested is the number of signatures required now to challenge. That has not been changed. And I'm trying to see whether we have the ability to change that, because that number, I think it was at 3% or something, it's in that section in the charter, and that was 20 years ago. And 3% in the town is 50% larger in terms of number of registered voters. It's going to be a real hurdle to try to come up with those number of signatures within a short 10 days after the election, that we may want to change that percentage. But in any event, the question right now is, do we want to put this language which was suggested that it'll be deemed final?
And I would say yes. So,
All in favor? Okay, Bill, did you have a vote? Okay, so we will add the change suggested in number 19.
What's the vote? Is that what you want to know, Rich?
Bill would like to know what the vote was.
Pardon me?
Bill would like to know what the vote was.
Oh, you want to give me, I was in favor, I'm sorry, my mic was off. I'm in favor.
Okay, 6
Then
to
I
1.
believe it was 6 to 1.
So it would have to be then adding language that no action of town meeting that has been deemed final shall be deemed invalid as a result of any violation of this section. That has to be added then.
So you're okay with adding that?
No,
You're
but
against
that-
adding that?
I'm against adding that,
Okay.
but that would have to be done. I'm just saying, we need to
That was that was the question that
take
was
the next step.
posed that we voted on, whether or not to add that last sentence. And
Where will
everybody,
we add that? We voted to add that sentence. Where would we add it? At the end of 211.2, after the word reference? Where will we add it?
George suggested a new paragraph number.
Oh, so 211.3?
Yes, it'll become 211.
It'll become 211.3. Okay, thank you.
so was the action taken that the majority of the commission is in favor of adding this final sentence?
Yes, 6 to
Yes,
1.
Okay. And I recorded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor and 1 opposed. Next change was number 20. Michelle, this is more of an edit. Is that in the final draft?
That was, no,
Is that
it's not
just a
there any longer.
fossil that was hanging over?
It's no longer there.
Well, it's section 3-5 dash, if you can find it. It's on page 34 of the old, but that's the old draft.
It's already been removed.
We're in George Hall, comment number 21.
I think you've already taken that little set of words out. Anyways, you check that. If it's just a clause that should have been deleted, we should delete it.
That's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Okay, it's already gone.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Next is comment number 21. This has to do with the initiative petition. Let's see, any 10 registered voters may secure, this has to do with getting articles into the warrant. Any 10 registered voters may secure the inclusion of an article in the warrant for any of the annual representative town meetings by written petition to the select board. And then the next sentence deals with special town meetings. I don't see the inconsistency. It's 10 for a regular town meeting and 100 for a special.
Is the word annual still in there?
No, let's look, it's
No, the word annual is
5-5-1.
I think, I'm not sure, is that really 5?
No, annual is gone in the current one.
Let's see.
It's actually
Page 41.
5-8-1.
41 in the new
581,
form,
right.
new draft.
But-
Page 41, Section 8 initiative.
We did, it looks to me as though he's correct that we left the word annual out.
That should have been in there.
And it should be there because it's
So it's
10,
10 for an
10
annual.
signatures for an annual and 100.
Oh,
Special.
that's what you
Yeah.
said, it was just the
Yeah.
annual.
So Michelle, the first sentence there in 5-8-1 should have the word annual when it refers to town meeting. Is that the one that takes 10 signatures?
Okay.
So the spring and fall are considered annual? Is that what we're saying? Spring and fall are considered annual?
So we okay with that? So we've got 2 sentences. The first one is annual town meeting, the second one is a special. In 5-8-1.
Are both spring and fall considered annual? I thought spring was the annual. Bill, could I ask a question, please? Are both the spring and the fall town meetings referred to as annual town meeting?
Yeah, come on, Larry.
Town council issued an opinion that the fall town meeting is annual. We chose not to include that in the charter, and it's entirely possible that if there was a different town council, they might have a different opinion. So as of now, the clerk requested an opinion of town council, and town council said that the fall meeting qualified as annual.
So it's both spring and fall are called annual town meeting.
And function under those rules, and the Attorney General has accepted that designation, because we've had to submit petitions, a number of people, and they said, fine.
So if we put the word annual in here, it's going to it's going to refer to spring and fall.
As of now,
And so my question is, that third meeting we talked about for January, are we referring to that as a special town meeting? What's that called?
No, it's not a special.
Well, then,
Special town, meeting. We discussed this with Collins, and they were very clear. They said the special town meeting is one that comes up without any notice or it comes up unexpectedly.
So
The one in January may be subject to an option, but it's nothing unusual about it. It's not
So
gonna be unexpected.
581 refers to spring and fall. The 100 registered voters refers to special. Suppose somebody wants to get an article into the January meeting, how do they do that?
That is also an annual meeting. At this point, right, the way our language reads, it is a non-mandatory third town meeting.
So it's an annual town meeting? Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood
And the word is
that.
plural, annual town meetings.
Right, so I just didn't know how the
covers.
January one was
So we
being
need to-
called.
Clarify in 581, the first sentence, what takes 10 signatures are the annual town meetings, of which there's 2 and maybe 3.
Yes.
Okay,
And a special is one that just occurs.
When it's called.
I mean, I think that when this charter is, assuming that the charter gets accepted, there will have to be an opinion on the part of council and the Attorney General as to whether the non-mandatory January, perhaps, town meeting qualifies as an annual. I think it's above our ability as a charter commission to make that determination.
unless we label it in here.
Yes, if we label it and change this to any representative spring, fall, or January town meeting would cover those.
I think we should do that.
The definition would,
It seems like that would cover it.
If you use the word any, that means if there is a January, it's an annual,
Right.
that could work.
I like David's,
so we could also list them. You could say spring, fall, and January are
I would
considered.
be in favor of listing them.
I mean, the biggest effect of that is lowering the number of signatures required to put an article on the warrant, and that's complies with our democratic urge that
Yes,
we've had
yes.
throughout this
Yes.
commission.
It also,
It fits our preamble, too, to
it also
encourage.
it normalizes that January meeting as a regular meeting.
So
So-
that paragraph, Mr.
We-
Chairman,
we-
I think we mentioned all 3 meetings in that paragraph.
so we agreed that we're going to define the 3 possible annual town meetings. We
Yes.
actually
Yes.
specifically discussed that with Collins, and that was their suggestion,
Awesome.
and said
We're all in
special
agreement.
is different.
So
Okay, next. Next is number 23. Multi-member boards, the question that council asked was, do members hold over until their successors are sworn in? This sentence could be construed as overriding that default rule. So this is 62-2.
I don't think it's construed. I think it's clear that it does. I mean, it's absolutely the case that the rule is that a person continues to serve until resigned or replaced, except we've just changed that, or the person falls below 50% in a 12-month period.
Right.
So, yeah, their point's well taken, but we don't need to do anything.
Don't make any
It
change.
never happens anyway.
All right. Coming near the end of this, we've got, looks like one more comment, which was number 24. And this is in the enforcement provision. So a complainant who is aggrieved by the reply may pursue any remedy available at law or in equity. And the comment was aggrieved by the alleged charter violation and the alleged insufficiency of the reply. I guess you want to add those additional words as to what aggrieved means?
I agree with his additional language.
Yeah, I think it helps. I do too. Okay, any objection to adding those additional
The-
words on aggrieved?
He's
changing the,
He's trying to read what he was saying. How would it read?
a complainant who is aggrieved by the alleged charter violation and the alleged insufficiency of the reply
Right.
Yeah,
But
okay.
then
may pursue any remedy available at law and in equity.
I got it. It will be included. And that completes our council's edits. Thank you.
What is the, excuse me, could we just, what does the word insufficiency mean here? What does it mean that a reply is insufficient? Doesn't have enough words, or?
Alleged insufficiency, that means
I don't like
David
it.
said I shouldn't have had not and had done it, and I said, yes, I should, and he said, that's not good enough.
But it says insufficiency of the reply. So if I write a really long reply,
No,
but you don't like it.
You may feel it's insufficient, but it's a subjective standard here
Yeah.
as to whether the complainant feels the reply is sufficient.
So if the complainant agrees that the reply is sufficient, then they don't go and they don't do anything else.
This is in the eyes of the complainant.
It's just in the eyes of the complainant.
Okay,
Okay.
so next we turn to Mr. Cirque's comments.
Chapter
Yeah, there is a single page
911.
a single page put together of two different emails combined into one page, which are Rich Cirque's comments on different chapters. They're all spelled out by section number. Mr. Cirque, you're at the podium.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way, for reading through the charter and making edits.
Rich Cirque, Precinct 2. My first comment was whether you did or did not think that the timelines in section 264 and 261 were tight.
Yeah, by the way, he's taking the second half of his comments. I don't know why they're in this order, but he's at the second bottom of the page there where his chapter 2 comments are, and then the top of the page are his chapter 3 comments, which was a later email. But just following it chronologically in the charter, we start with section 2. Those the appointments of the various committees, the organization, and so forth?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Was that the same comment that another town meeting member made, that we wouldn't,
Timelines, yeah.
there was a short time period between the committee of precinct chairs had to make their appointments to the finance committee?
We made a change there.
I think that's the same comment, 261.
Rich, I think that the answer to your question is yes,
Yeah.
but we considered it, and there were in order for government to continue, that we had originally had a longer time frame and figured out that we wouldn't make it to July 1st, so that's why we ended up with that time frame.
Okay, I just was raising the issue, not necessarily expressing a point of view. On 274, it says, "The committee may, with a 2/3 vote, request that the select board call a special town meeting within 30 days." Does the select board have the right to grant or refuse that request?
Yeah, that was what we were talking about earlier, that it's just a request. It does not have to be granted.
Pardon me?
Yes, your answer is yes, they do not have to grant the request.
Okay.
It was something, Rich, we had looked at, but it looked like state statutes say it's only the select board, I think, has the power.
Okay.
And so COPC can request, but not
Okay.
mandate.
Section 281, the moderator may or may not be a town meeting member, is that correct?
That's right, there's nothing that,
Yeah, we were thinking that it wouldn't be a town meeting member, but we didn't say anything about it.
Well, as of now, there's a prohibition for multiple office holding, and I'm assuming that that would continue.
Right, if you became moderator, you'd have to give up your
Right.
town meeting membership.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
okay?
Do you want to preclude a select board member or the town manager from being moderator?
That would be the same thing, too.
Rich, what
multiple,
section are you on right now?
Pardon me?
284?
281, he's still asking
Wouldn't that be
about.
the same thing, multiple?
First one's easy. The select board would be a similar situation. There's a prohibition against multiple office holding.
Okay.
Town manager, that is, the town manager, as far as I can tell, is not precluded.
But
Who the hell would
be a
want
registered voter.
Yeah. Will be.
So, Rich Cirque, which section here are you referring to at this point?
I was looking at 281.
28?
Um,
281 or 284?
281 for that.
281.
I just was trying to get my hands around the universe of people that could conceivably be moderator. And,
Rich, is your mic on?
pardon
I'm
me?
having trouble hearing you. Is your microphone on?
Is your microphone on? Go, get closer to the mic.
Yeah. You've indicated that if it's a town meeting member, that person must resign as town meeting member, and the same issue would be with the select board. And what was the answer with respect to the town manager?
Same thing. You'd have to give up town manager.
No, it's
Okay.
anyone, the prohibition in here is against multiple office holding.
Yeah.
So anyone who is not elected to a position
Yeah.
would not have to give up his position as, if he became moderator.
But a select board member clearly would.
True.
Right.
And it,
I think that in answer to town manager, multiple employee, immediate family, I think it should be up to town meeting who they vote for a moderator. And whoever it is, if they know who they are, if that's who they want, then town meeting should be able to vote for whoever they want. That's just my opinion on
So the
that.
general answer to your question is yes.
okay. How about a municipal employee or the immediate family member of a municipal employee becoming a moderator?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think there's any restriction.
Pardon me?
No.
No restriction.
No restriction, okay. On 284,
Yeah, this was discussed at length at the last Charter Review Committee. What would be the quantum of vote for overturning a ruling of the moderator by the town meeting?
Yeah.
And we started with a majority, and we debated it back and forth, and I think and Mr. Peck can correct me, but in the final analysis, after we debated it over a series of meetings, we thought we would start with a 2/3, a bit of a higher hurdle, in order to overrule the moderator.
My question was whether you wanted to say after the 2/3 of the members present and voting.
Well, let's see. That's probably a good change.
I agree.
Good clarification.
No,
Okay.
but present and voting, because if we have 162 and we require a 2/3 quorum to be present, then it's 2/3 of that 2/3, because they're in the room or they're participating.
Well, I mean, I think what we're doing is simply clarifying.
Right.
Because we've always treated any vote.
Those present.
Having to do with the number, I mean,
Voting.
if there were 85 people and 83 of them abstained,
Yeah.
a 2-0 vote would work.
So it's gonna be
So I think it's a good suggestion to add those words.
2/3 of the members present?
Present and voting.
On 285, in the last sentence, it says that the assistant moderator shall be uncompensated, except in the event of the death or disability of the moderator. I read that as not applying to the moderator himself or herself, right? It's just the assistant shall be uncompensated.
Right.
We're not going to pay somebody for this for the day.
I'm sorry?
Right.
291,
Wait, let me just be sure. We made no changes to 284 or 285, is that right?
Right.
I'm sorry?
284 and 285 are okay as written.
284, we added present and voting.
Larry, do you want to have and voting?
Present and voting.
Yeah.
Yes.
After
Yeah,
the,
I think we're all in agreement on that, present and voting.
at the end
Okay.
of the sentence,
And 285 on the compensation?
no change.
Okay,
No change on that one.
okay. 291, the second sentence, there are some persons listed in the first sentence who could not be town meeting members, right?
Yes, the town manager wouldn't necessarily be a town meeting member, right?
Okay.
You saying couldn't or?
Who could not be town meeting members?
Do you mean by might not be? Is that what the word could means, might not?
I don't, who do you think couldn't?
No, this actually says they could be elected.
Well, the finance
They
committee
can't hold more
members.
than one office, but the,
No, it says they have the privileges of
well,
representative.
then it goes on to say, except unless they've been elected to the office of representative town meeting member.
Right. I don't think any of those people are precluded from being elected to town meeting,
Right.
as long
Okay.
as they're registered voters and pass muster with the,
And they're not
Electorate.
holding more than one office,
yeah.
Okay.
okay?
My last comment in
That's
that
clear.
section, I had written 210-1, I meant 211-1. Do you want to bar immediate family members of the persons listed from serving on the Finance Committee?
So the only people that can't, so you're really talking town employees here, right? The question is whether a family member of a town employee could be on the finance committee?
In the first line, it says representative town meeting members. Do you want to say, and their immediate family members? Hold on. Oh, I think you've got it in there now. Okay. I was looking at an earlier version.
Okay.
Can we go back to 291? It says the chairpersons of elected and appointed boards shall attend, right? So, like, that means the chairman of the Open Space Committee, the chairman of any committees at all, they have to attend?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I always attended now as chairman because I was a town meeting member, but even if you're not a town meeting member, any committee, because I don't think that, they all know that, all the people who are,
That's why we put it in the charter.
but I mean, is that in the old charter as well?
Yes, it was in the old charter as well, as the chair for 15 years of the Historic District Committee. Oh, God, I had to go to the meetings.
So, but I'm not sure that, I'm not sure that everybody knows that, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Rich, any more here?
We got
My-
back to the top.
My next comment has to do with 311, Section B.
So now, we're at the
Dis-
top
dis-
of the page, the first item, 311B.
It's page 19 on the issue, the version I have. I just want to verify my understanding that every third year, all the district members are up for election. And so if that's year one, in year two, there are no district members up for election. In year three, there are no district, and then in the following year, they're all up for election, because unlike the at-large members are for overlapping terms, but the district members are every 3 years.
Yes.
So, I mean, to further elucidate, year one, district members. Year two, 2 at-large select board members. Year three, the other 2 at-large select board members, back to year one, district members. So there's 2 years of at-large, 1 year of district.
Okay.
What's
And
next, Rich?
when the district members are up for election, no at-large members are up for election. Okay. 311D. Just Just 1 second.
Well, Rich, he's going to explain his point in 311D.
I think it's the very last sentence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my question had to do with the proviso at the end of D. It says, provided that such request is filed with the board or board member. What do you mean to or board member?
I agree, Richard. I don't know what that means.
So that's select board, capital,
That's in D.
Instead of the entire board, just one member.
Yeah, I think that's not good. I think taking out "or board member" is a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's inferred that
Yeah,
we might go to one member, but they ain't bringing it
to the board, yeah.
Good point, Rich.
I think it's a good point.
Yep.
I would take it out.
Leave or board member.
No, take it out.
so we're going to make it select board or select board members?
No.
Just at the very end, top of page 20.
Right.
I would personally, I would take out or board member.
I
Just
agree.
leave it, is filled with the board
Filed,
at least 100 days.
filed with the board.
So that
Filed
would
with the
be
board,
a
sorry.
capital select board,
So just take out or board member.
right.
I agree with
Delete the
that.
words or board member.
Is there any reason why the board member is low, is not a capital B? Well, why is that not a capital B? Because I think we want a capital B there because it's a proper noun, the board. So
But
if I would,
actually,
I would,
board has to be capitalized.
I would capitalize the word board.
And add select.
Select board.
Could add select, yeah. I would add select.
My,
As long as it's not.
my next comment had to do with subsection E right after it. It says, "Districts shall be initially determined as provided in Chapter 9 of Article 911 and may be revisited." Should that be must be revisited?
No, we didn't want that to be must, I'm pretty sure.
I see where he's going.
See, 911 is the, I think the reference there is to the transition provision. The districts, it's actually 961.
Normal towns that don't grow as fast as Plymouth sometimes don't change their precinct structure.
Right.
And, you know, I wish it were the case. It probably won't be. But if that were the case in Plymouth, that all of a sudden we had a very passive population, it would be unnecessary. So the word must, I mean, may says if necessary, and must says even if it's not necessary, I think.
But Larry, shouldn't that be 961? I think that's the wrong reference.
Well, suppose you said may, comma, if necessary, comma.
96 is the districts.
Larry, what about that?
Yeah, I think you're right.
What about?
To be Chapter 9, Section 961.
Richard's revamping and asking.
Right.
Mr. Cirque's asking if may, comma, if necessary, period, right?
Yeah.
Add the if necessary.
Although that might beg the question as to who determines whether it's necessary.
Yeah.
Right. I think may allows you to determine
He's
that.
right. It would beg the question.
But on the other hand, who determines whether the districts are to be revisited or not, if it's may?
Well, federal law, one man, one vote, basically says, and I'm quite sure it applies to these districts as well, basically says that if the district changes in its makeup, we can put if necessary, but I don't think it's necessary because the likelihood.
May takes care of that.
Yeah,
What's
on
that?
the other
Yeah.
hand, the next sentence has must. Revisions made to precincts must also address blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So perhaps we do need must in the first sentence.
Bill?
Wait,
Bill,
David had a question. Betsy?
I'm deferring to Betsy.
As far as who makes the decision, it says that it was going to be done using the same procedure and time frame. And the procedure that we're using for precincts is the select board, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it is the select board, but who makes the decision? The decision is in a way made for us.
With overpopulation.
Because state and federal law apply to the formation of precincts and districts.
And that's the same procedure, so I think it's covered under same procedure is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I don't think we have to add more than same procedure and time frame. And as far as the may, I think the first sentence, may, is different than the must in the second sentence. The first one is saying you may revisit it. The second sentence is saying, if you do revisit it, here's how you have to do it. So I think it is two different concepts.
I agree.
Okay, so
And Bill,
It is 961, not.
yeah, Bill
Yeah, they-
pointed that out, 961.
I think E is okay.
We can leave that as it is?
That's my suggestion, is
Okay.
that we leave it as it
That's
is.
okay with me.
Larry, wouldn't it be section 961 of? Yes. I mean, it's the wording isn't right.
My next comment,
The section is of the chapter.
Wait a
my
second.
next comment is section 3-13.
Can you hold on a second?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is a little bit unclear. In, provided
It's in chapter 9, and it's 961,
in chapter,
which is the.
how have we referred to these in the past? Chapter 9 of Article 961 doesn't seem to. Article's not, is it section?
Section.
You're
not
right,
article.
you're right, that's true.
Should say section 961 of chapter 9.
Yep.
Yes, that's better.
Awesome. You want to 313.9?
Yeah, 313.9.
Yep.
There's a reference to Chapter 60 or Chapter 61. I think you should add Chapter 61A, which also has a right of first
So this is the
refusal.
Land Acquisition Committee?
Pardon me?
This is the LUAC Committee?
Land acquisition.
Land Acquisition Committee,
Yeah.
right.
And he's asking to add
There's a reference in the
61A.
I think that's correct.
Yeah,
Is the
I
usual.
So
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I
you
think
need
that's a great
to
idea.
add 61A because that's,
Yes, we're going to make the change.
okay.
And what's the other chapter having to do with recreational land? What does that mean? What does that mean, Mr. Cirque? And to the other chapter having to do with recreational land? In your notes, after 61A, it says parentheses, and to the other chapter having to do with recreational land.
Yeah, up here.
What does that refer to?
And to the other chapter.
Yeah, I think, all I'm saying is if you're going to name one chapter or two, you ought to name three of them.
What's the other name, though? What
What's the
is
third
It's-
one, Rich?
61, 61A, and it's all Chapter 60. Chapter 60 or Chapter 61.
And chapter 61A.
Okay, I was, I think the relevant sections are Chapter 60, 61A, or 61, 61A, and 61B. Anyway, you
Okay,
can
we'll
look it up.
double check that.
Just put them all in there.
Okay, I agree with that.
We will check that. It may be three different ones.
Section 851.
Excuse me, just 1 minute before we go on. Can we go back to 313.9 and look at the sale of land? It just refers to chapter 61. Is that correct? No,
We're going
but
to
we,
check, Betsy, to see whether we have the right three sections there.
Well, we need to list them twice, that's all.
that's what I'm wondering, is do we need to list them all twice? That's my question.
313.9 at the beginning and 313.9 at the bottom.
So do they both need to have all of them listed? Because the bottom one just says chapter 61. It doesn't say 60 or 61A or 61B.
All the chapters up here, do we need to repeat all the chapters down?
I think you need to repeat them all.
I think, it seems to me you need to repeat them, but I'm not sure why we wouldn't.
That was your other reference, Mr. Cirque.
In the second reference, you could say the aforementioned chapters.
Or list them all again,
Good
to be
point.
really clear.
Betsy, we're actually going to look at the statutes. and
Okay,
pick the
thank
right
you. Okay.
Designations and put them in here.
And Collins people might have something to say about that. Okay.
On section 851, this goes to the definition of town official. And I just want to make sure that town official includes town meeting members. Because the definition is.
I'm pretty clear.
Town officer, the words town officer shall mean an elected or appointed official of the town. And
Our
it-
intent was that it included town meeting.
They
So,
are an
so we
elected
thought about that, and I think a town official is a town meeting member.
Right, yeah, because they're elected.
I think the operative word in that sentence is elected, and it would include town meeting members
Right.
as elected officials of the legislative branch.
maybe you, in getting back to that, shall mean a person elected or a person appointed or elected of the, whatever. If you feel comfortable that it includes town meeting member, I'm okay.
Yep.
The only other thing I have is on 8.5.3. I would like there to be a provision that says the complaint and the reply would be noted on the town clerk's website, so that people wanting to see both documents could see them, rather than having it put in a drawer.
854,
853.
but 854 says that they shall be considered public records.
Well, they can be public records, but I think that it would be appropriate to put both, to have them noted on the website so that a person who wants to see them can find them right away, or doesn't have to hunt for them.
A question for the guy who used to be the town clerk. If it is a, where are they? If it becomes an official record, is that automatically put on the town clerk's website?
No.
Okay.
I'd like it to be added, I suggest it be added, just the same way that when you look at the town clerk, there's a menu of all the items that the town clerk can provide you with, and this should be a line item, I would think. That's my suggestion.
Let's carry the discussion a little further than we took it.
Yeah, I think that's too far for me right now. I think
Because we
that.
had a lot of discussion whether we're going to send
yeah,
reports to the manager.
Right, yeah, and I think
the
we
select
sort
board.
of said, let's leave it like it is for now,
Right.
because a person isn't required to reply, for example. As far as I understand it, you don't have to reply. They may reply, but they don't have to. So then if just a complaint would stand. So I think at this point, I think the idea, my understanding was for the person who was aggrieved to be able to let somebody know, myself, for example, I used to be employed by the town as a guidance counselor, and if I voted for the school committee budget, somebody could say, you shouldn't have done it. I'm not required to reply to that, but they have let me know that that's their opinion. So I think the idea was for the person who was the alleged violator to know somebody's not happy with what you did.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was, the idea was to make it it's a public record, but I don't know that we wanted to put it out there like printing it in the newspaper or something.
Well, I think it's an educational device for others. I don't intend to put somebody in the stocks to be pilloried, but I think it would be an educational device if there was just a line item underneath charter, if you said,
Well, is there any,
enforceability complaints and replies.
Yeah, I don't agree with that,
Okay.
putting it on the website.
we debated it at some length. We went as far then as we thought the majority of us wanted to go, which was to send the reports to the manager and the select board. Do we want to take it further now and actually post it on the town's webpage? That's the question.
It is a public record, so that you can request that public record at any time.
Somebody could ask for it.
Yeah, you would have to ask for it.
But
I totally understand where you're going. I think that this commission didn't have an appetite to go further than we did.
All right.
And I think the opportunity exists again for the individual, the complainant, to take it farther if they wished. It's already going to be a public record once they file it. Then they could send it to the press, or they could distribute it in other ways, and it is an official complaint. So I think that if someone really felt aggrieved by this, they could raise the level of awareness fairly quickly.
Give it to the newspaper. Okay, Mr.
Thank you,
Cirque,
Mr.
thank you very
Cirque.
much.
Yeah, Mr.
This is-
Cirque, I really appreciate all the attention you gave this and some
Thank you.
excellent comments. Yeah, but a lot of your comments were
So at
excellent.
this point, I'll ask if there's any public comment.
You're welcome to stay, Rich.
We have no attendees.
Nobody for public comment. Okay, good. Not good. So let's just take up, the other edits here are short, and then we can do the minutes. We had a couple of suggestions from Mr. Lawrence. Michelle, I guess I can ask you, he thought there were duplications in the town manager's list of duties. Those two sections, 351G and 351W, and 351X.
He is correct.
He's correct? Okay, we'll fix it. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. I think his second change, though, is somewhat different. We do refer to his duties, and there is some overlap, but it's repeated like between DPW and finance and planning. Does anybody see any issue with that? It's just, those are clearly his duties with respect to those different departments.
I agree with Betsy.
I think it's okay the way it
It's
is.
okay.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Lyle Lawrence.
Right here, excuse me. Lyle Lawrence is this lady.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lyle.
And then we had a letter from former reporter Charles Matheson. Let's see, he doesn't really have edits. It's more of a letter of just comments.
That's a long-standing debate in newspaper circles about how you properly refer to town meeting members
Right.
or representative, as he's saying, you're not a member of the BJ's buying club. So he
And there's nothing wrong with being a member of the Old Colony Club, just to state that.
Or
I take
BJ,
reference to,
or BJ.
wicked
It's okay.
representative.
Okay, do you see anything in his letter here that requires any action or discussion? He kind of, it's a letter of comments.
Thank you to Mr. Matheson.
Comments on the select board. All right, the next, so Michelle, those were all the comments that we passed out. Right, there are no more edits. We still are going to welcome public input.
Mr. Chairman, I did see in the package, Ken Christofori had a map showing a potential, that was a two division.
Right,
So I think we moved past it, and I also think
that's good.
a north-south gets things a little less compact, where the three we
Yeah,
agreed
so we're
on. So-
beyond that.
But thank you to Mr.
23.
Christofori
Yes,
for doing
but we
that.
thank him for putting his thinking cap on.
Okay, let's approve the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. First is August 22nd.
motion to approve?
Seconded, is it?
Seconded.
All in favor of the August 22nd minutes to be approved? Next are August, yep, right. I think you were back, though, for the next minutes, right, August 23rd?
Was it the next day?
Next night.
I was.
Didn't you come back for that one?
I did.
Yeah. So these are the minutes of August 23rd, which was that Tuesday night. Pardon me?
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve, has it been seconded? All in favor of the August 23rd minutes
Abstain?
are approved, and then the last meeting was the one in the Charlotte Room, which was August 29th.
Motion?
Second.
Move to approve, it's been seconded, any corrections? All in favor of that set of minutes, raise their hand. Thank you. And then on the agenda, we're still showing a regular meeting next week. We kind of see how the week develops. If we want to do anything prior to the hearing has been noticed. We definitely will be meeting in 2 weeks for the public hearing on October 3rd.
Mr. Chair, just to report, I will not be here the 26th,
Okay.
a week from tonight.
Does anybody see a need for a meeting next week? No. I don't, unless something were to happen, I don't see any need either.
So that would be a may, not a must.
So we have, just to call to your attention, Mr. Peck has submitted a draft of his statement, which is 2 months early, well, that's good. It has to be submitted after we vote on our final report, which should be just
Well,
prior.
as I'd promised in
to
the
the
past,
November meeting.
This is for, full commission comment. I welcome editorial comments and suggestions on the language.
I mean, it's kind
Probably
of
not the content, but I welcome it, and whether it's mine alone or my one or more colleagues, I do think that's part of our process. But if you had, when people have a chance to read it, I also continue to commend the full commission. We've worked hard together on lots of issues without contention, I would say, and adversarial positions. So it's
Well, David,
it's
I
been a
kind
good
of
commission.
read it as like a dissenting opinion, where you concur in certain matters, certain issues, you concur.
Yep.
Other matters, you dissent. It's kind of, it's a well-reasoned statement of where you are. Maybe in 2 months, you won't be at the same point. Who
Well,
knows?
of course, we'll see how the next couple months break out, but I've been talking to wrestling and others. That is my dissenting report, however, I will work on behalf of this charter.
We appreciate that.
Because we've incorporated improvements that I'm completely in support of, and I think it's a better charter than we currently have, so I'm in support of, I'll be working between now and May to
Very good.
urge its approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming that the submission of a dissenting report does not require a negative vote on the final. I assume we'll have a vote at some point of whether we're supporting the final charter. Am I correct?
I looked at the statute, it's not clear on that. I got to think, we have to ask counsel. Because it has a procedure where a vote is taken and then a dissenting statement is filed, or a minority report, as though you were not part of the majority report. But you take a hard look at that.
Thank you.
I can't answer it either way. If you look at the way that section in the chapter 43B reads, there is a process that gets you to the minority statement, and it's just after the vote. So we'll see.
And, Mr. Chairman, we're sort of an open discussion. Can we get a bigger font? Because I've had feedback saying you need a magnifying glass, and it's hard to digest at this
David,
size.
we had the same point, and Michelle will tell us, she and I went back and forth to try to get a larger font. She can give you how many different people at OCM she talked to. Michelle, you want to speak for a minute on that point?
It all has to do with money. I mean, that publication was over $9,000.
This is worth
was
$9,000?
$9,547. And going larger would have been well over $12,000.
But the point, there's two further points to make. First,
We
all
thought it
these
was gonna
drafts
be-
are on the town website, including this,
Yeah.
this big one with the nice font. But there's going to be a further mailing by the select board, required in the statute, to every residence of the whole charter with explanatory materials that we have to put together as a commission, explaining the changes from the current charter to the new charter. All of that's going to end up in being mailed out, so there'll be another good time to discuss the font, and that's got nothing to do with the Old Colony Memorial, so we presumably it'll be very readable.
Yeah.
Sooner the better. They have up
Yeah.
until 14 days prior to the election to do that mailing.
Yeah,
But it has to go to every residence that has a registered voter living in it.
Good.
And
It
the select board has
needs
already-
to be, I mean, this is almost a joke, I mean, in terms of getting public input.
Yeah, the statute there's two parts to it, too. It said that anybody who wants a
Yeah.
copy can pick it up at the town hall, and unfortunately, it's just going to be, again, the Old Colony version, but this next mailing will be a readable font. At the same time, the select board would like to see the changes from our current charter, so we've got to figure out the best way to do that.
David, this might sound cynical. It is required that we publish,
I know, that.
but I don't believe that this is ever thought to be a major exposure to the public, because I don't think that the circulation of our newspaper is sufficient to call it that. So the fact that Bill is stating that we're going to have larger fonts
Yeah.
and more accessible information is important.
Well, I mean, knowing that, you should have made the font smaller to save some money.
Betsy?
Yes, have we supplied the library with the printed copy we got tonight? Do they have an actual
Yes.
physical copy?
They do not have the copies yet. They are sitting in my office. They got an email from me last Thursday to stop into the office they come in and get mail every day. I have a note on their mailbox to come in and pick up everything.
So they will have a copy. So if anybody, really wants to read it, they can go to the library and read a big font copy.
David, I think what goes out in the spring to every residence is the most important document. Everybody's going to get it at home and through the mail.
And
And that should absolutely be readable.
the full-size copies are on the website. They're on the opening page of the town's website. You don't have to go to the Charter Commission's page. It's on the front page of the town's website.
What is it listed under? What does it say there?
The town news.
It's under Town News?
Yes, right
So
on
you
the,
click on Town News and
no,
then
and it comes right up.
it comes right up?
You'll see it right on the opening page.
Opening page, okay, so everyone can read it online, or if they don't have a computer, they can go to the library and read it.
If they have to come into the office, they can get a hard copy.
Or they can get a hard copy here in the town hall. Okay, thank you. Just want to be sure the public knows how to access it for public comment. Thank you.
Does anybody have any new business or any old business? All right, so
Mr. Chair, for the October 3rd public hearing, in this room or in
In
the
this
courtroom?
room.
It's going to be here. And
In
same
this room
time,
at 7
Same
p.m.
time, 7 o'clock, so it's a normal window,
yes,
time window.
Martha.
Martha Vautrin, League Observer Corps. Do you know when the Select Board might send the final copy with the rest of the information to the citizens? Hopefully, it would be way before, 2 weeks before the election.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying, the statute says 14 days.
Right, but with this,
It should be, I think, in February or March.
good.
And you might make mention that the document that you folks are preparing.
Yes, we are working on changes, and we want to share it with you for any suggestions, thoughts, and it'll be ready after tomorrow. We're going to meet tomorrow So we'll send it to you. Is that all right, Bill?
Martha, historically, and I can say this as former town clerk,
You were the former town clerk?
it's gone out as early as it was provided by the commission. It then went out, so, I mean, we have statutory responsibilities between now and then, but there's no, it never was close to 14 days. It
Good.
was much earlier.
But interesting, the statute says the select board shall,
Yep.
right,
Yeah, you did a lot of
okay, thank you. There be, I didn't hear any new business or old business.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor of adjourning? We are adjourned, thank you.